So the Cannes Film Festival finished last week, and as you may know, Fjord won the Palme d'Or. Now Cannes has had a history of picking some world-class films for this honour. I mean, in the last decade alone, we've had titles like It Was Just an Accident, Anora, Triangle of Sadness, bloody Parasite, and it's made me wonder, has Cannes ever really missed the mark? I scoured the rankings to find the lowest rated film ever bestowed with the Palme, and one title stood out to me. Well, two actually. The proper lowest rated is this really obscure war film called The Turning Point. It won in 1946, a year where 11 films took home the top prize, so yeah, I'm not counting that. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the sole film that will either prove or dismiss the claim that Cannes knows what they're doing. The Knack and How to Get It. But quickly, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. I think it would be really cool if I could hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. So if you like what I've got to say, then please click that button. Now this won in 1965, beating out notable titles also in competition, such as The Ipcris Files and Kobayashi's Kwaidan. Directed by Richard Lester, who you may recognise from making the Beatles movies, as well as Superman 2 and 3. The Knack and How to Get It follows the story of timid schoolteacher Colin as he tries to follow the advice of his male manipulator-esque housemate Tolan in pursuit of seducing a woman. Now this is a film at the forefront of the British New Wave, and it's set on a backdrop of swinging 60s London. Austin Powers, by the way, has completely ruined the phrase swinging 60s. I physically cannot take it seriously anymore.
Oh, behave.
This is very much a black comedy of sorts, you know, and as lots of old comedies tend to be, it's humorous at times. I wouldn't go as far to call it hilarious, but you know, it's fun. And again, as lots of old comedies tend to be, elements of it are very much of their time. Now, I don't tend to like waffling on about these older films being politically incorrect, because people say it makes me sound way too woke, but that last act especially was making me shift in my seat somewhat. Without going into too much detail, this film plays extremely fast and loose with a certain type of assault, and while in moderation it could be glossed over as, you know, like friendly 60s banter,
Mate, she wants you to rape her, that's what it's all about.
there comes a point where what they're saying just seems a bit too icky, a bit too wrong.
It went clean out of my head. I can't get involved with girls today.
And it kind of taints what the film's been building up to. For the sake of this review, I will just gloss over it as being friendly 60s banter. But if you're one of the few people who've watched this, you will know exactly what I mean. The Knack plays as much more of a satire on the male gaze, with ladies' man Tolan being known only by his surname, a somewhat mysterious being acting as a mere representation of the masculine attitudes of the time. You know, he wears sunglasses, gloves, overcoats, and he rides around on a motorcycle. A smooth talker that, much to the repressed dismay of his housemate, manages to command a comedically large roster of women. Ladies' man Tolan is a bit of a, not necessarily creep, but he's got a lot of predatory qualities, I'll put it at that. I find it to be a really interesting insight into the attitudes of the time, especially in comparison to the new norms of today. If you compare figures like Tolan to new-gen influences like Andrew Tate or the likes of Clavicula, lots of the attitudes have stayed quite consistent.
The reason the steak eaters are going to win is because people who have power inside of them and want power eat steak.
Food is of the essence. One's body needs protein and energy-giving substance.
Yes, but look, steak.
It can be the most expensive. The cheaper cuts have the same food value.
Yes.
Not to say these attitudes are still correct, but they're still prevalent. That's the point. You know, parallels can easily be drawn, and while these attitudes are presented in much more of a satirical light, I think it's quite interesting nonetheless. In the context of this world, the four main characters work to represent the essential hierarchical groups of society. At the top, you've got those with the knack, then those without the knack, the outcasts, and then connecting all of them is the women themselves. And through the runtime, this hierarchy is tried and tested to its breaking point. But, as I've mentioned previously, it's at the breaking point, at the top of the film, where it really just lost its steam in my opinion. It has an odd nature to it in the sense that it does really well at glamorizing assault, something that really shouldn't probably be glamorized. And it's a shame because up until that point, I thought the film really worked. I liked the way it was shot, you know, all these little cutaways to those judgmental members of the public.
Bound to end in tears.
Innocent eyes of blue, what her legs are walking her into.
The continued use of these more surrealist-esque dream sequences. The scenes where they take this bed on a tour around London, or get into this cartoon-like chase on a motorcycle. It adds a lot of flavour, you know, it gives us a lot of personality. And it brings me back to Cannes. I think it's truly impressive that the objective worst film to ever win the awards is still good. Compare that to some of the slop the Oscars has handed the Best Picture to. It really speaks to the consistency and the quality of both the films entering and coming away from the festival. In a way, this does kind of give merit to the idea that the Palm is a more prestigious honour to win. You know, you haven't got as much of this big budget Hollywood influence, it's very much a collection of the best films from around the world. If this is the worst thing to come out as the Best Picture it can, then clearly the festival is doing something right. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching the video. Go check out whatever's on the screen now. I hope you'll like it, and I'll see you in the next one.